because it takes so much time on that, but I'm going to simplify in the way that I think to understand. I did ask AI, now how do I do this? Upload my presentation, and I said, what is the difference between AI and myself when I'm presenting topic like this? I say that there are at least 7 reasons why lecturer or academicians are better than AI in presenting topic like this. One of them is the clinical experience. But if I tell you now, not the clinical experience, the clinical pain of dealing and learning this when you do not know what's going on, that is more important. Yeah. So, okay, you can start. I'm going to start, but very slowly, just to cover everything. First and foremost, just to inform you, all the speakers that you've seen before, who actually speak before you this morning, I think all of them are actually under our program. Dr. Anmi, Dr. Ida, Dr. Shafi, Dr. Anwar is actually in the fellowship program, but I am under corneal and external disease and refractive surgery. Dr. Uzaifa is actually a member of the program. A member of a program of fellowship. They are not a fellowship, they're just a member. So Dr. Tigor was accepted from Surabaya, actually coming in as a part of our member of the program. So we actually open up the member of program starting January for the local as well. We already have a member about, I think Dr. Shafi keeps track on this. There's a full review requirement for you to become a member, because we do have classes 7 o'clock, on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And if you do actually want to be a member of the program, not a fellowship yet, the member of the corneal external disease and refractive surgery fellowship program, because you get an access of the training and teaching. There's a requirement for you to come for that program, but you are not required to pay anything yet. That is the beauty of it. And there's a duration, and there's a requirement why you need to be to complete the membership for that. So if you're interested to do that, let us know. We process your application later on. On top of that, there is actually 2 weeks course that I am actually offered. At the moment, unfortunately, it's only available for the public system rather than private. You have 2 weeks attachment with IM to see how we do all the things from the lens refractive to the laser refractive. At the moment, as it stands, it actually open to the public for either you're from university or from TKM. But both, you need a HOD endorsement. You can't come alone, and you need to have endorsement from the HOD for that 2 weeks attachment. For the private, we're still negotiating with the university. Because usually with the university, when you listen to the private, they quickly start thinking about charging. That's the unfortunate thing about it. It's not to us, it's only the university. Okay, so that is actually as introduction. Is there any way that I use the wireless? Is it working?
Yes.
Is it? No, it's not with me. I just give it back.
Yes. Still charging.
Okay, it's charging. Okay, let me do this because you can see, that's so small. Okay, so let me do this. I'm supposed to give you an update on the axial line, keratometry, and IOL formula. And let me simplify this. Please look at the time, so we don't go overboard. I'll try to finish before 12:20 for the break. Yeah. So let's say go for the axial line first. Yeah, axial line. What is the update? What do you need to know where we're going with this? And my presentation have the technology, have the key features and evidence. That's why I think it's elaborate. But if I can just draw over here, when you look at actually the signs that we have with axial line, the first one is actually, it's always how we get this measurement. Now we know that measurement that we get have a few technology. It's actually evolved from ultrasound to now swept source OCT. Okay, now that evolvement from ultrasound to swept source OCT have actually provided us with so many information. Now, in the technology itself, we see that even ultrasound, when we actually give the talk or when we actually run the course in the basic ocular biometry, we actually tell the participants you have many types of ultrasound to be used. This is not talking about appellation and immersion. We're talking about the wavelength that you choose. It tells you about the penetration, the target the patient can actually see, the algorithm that they use to process, the echography that they have for you to interpret, the velocity that you can change, the gain, that you can play with, the dynamic range. So all that in ultrasound have actually evolved. It's no longer looking at ultrasound as an ultrasound. They have evolved. Now, and that's why in my talk that I prepared, saying that the ultrasound still actually applicable, because if you have a good ultrasound, you can perform as good as actually optical. But the other point of it is, of course, the technician. Because whatever that we have, the technology, repeatability and reproducibility become important. So we don't discard on the ultrasound, but know that when you want to buy it, there's a lot out there, and you have to look at the best in terms of the technology it involved. Because you can see that the most important thing is actually the length that you use, the ultrasound wavelength, as well as the target, because that matters. Now, move forward now, where are we in the technology? Remember that we have the OCT, and then before that we have PCI. That is partial coherent interferometry. Now, the partial coherent interferometry was actually pioneered by Carl Zeiss with Ion Master 500. Since then, you have so many. Now, based on the technology just mentioned, the axial length, you'll be able to use any PCI. They have good reproducibility and repeatability. You can use lens style, you can use domain, you can use now Argus, you can use actually RD. You can have G4 or G6 from Ganali, Pentacam AXL from Pentacam. In terms of axial length, they have no issue in performance. But what happened is actually now, you are looking at what else can they give? Because once you actually have PCI, you can get for the corneal thickness, the AC depth, the lens thickness, the posterior lens to the retina length, the vitreous length, as well as actually the thickness of the retina. Now, what happened in the technology now is that okay. So what happened in the technology now? We increase our the SSOCT to become better, because no longer with that, with high input from axial length, it has actually increased the ability of the optical sciences and engineer to calculate the IRL formula. That's why it's directly related. So if you have optical biometer, but you're still using SRKT, that doesn't make sense. Because you have so much of data with the optical biometer, but yet you still only look at the K and the axial length without looking at the AC depth, the lens thickness, the corneal thickness. That doesn't make sense, because there are centers like that. They use optical biometer for the purpose of easy processing. They go to SRKT. It doesn't make sense. So that's why you have to look back. Why does it make sense? Because you have the sophisticated input raw data, but because of logistics, too many patients, there's no way for you to recheck into the latest formula. Then you have to look back. You're actually sabotaging yourself and the center. But to do that, any optometrist will not like it. You ask any optometrist, except over here, because they have to do it. No. But but in the training we have shifted that from the optometrist, and mind you, we only have one optometrist in this center. So the other center we have four. But what happened now? The PG is taking over that. PG who actually the postgraduate who actually in our center, they have to do all this calculation. But just letting you know, if you buy the latest IOL Master 700 with TK, but you're still using SRKT, that doesn't make sense. Yeah? So now, moving forward, so the SSOCT now, because of why swab source, why not just only PCI and IOL Master 500? Because the SSOCT now have actually all the imaging quite nicely. For example, you can see the foveal fixation, you can actually look at the AC depth. So with all that information, you look at all the formula, we talk about the formula later on, all the formula have another newer version. Evo is having 2.0. Graham Barrett start looking at optimized axle length. You look at Kane is actually looking for the 2.0. So we have Nasir 2.0, we have Purvili DGS. So when you see all these basically speakers talk about it, you'll be overwhelmed. Whoa. But it's not. It's what they do is actually once they get that, they try to put in their formula. Now, just talk about SLN first, and we don't go anything else. So this is just a message saying that if you have strap source OCT, please consider use the recent formula. Now, not only we have all this data, now we actually have this data in cloud. So sooner or later, you have to be prepared. That will be in cloud. You look at all other companies are talking about it. Of course, the rich private will have it first. The public usually the last because we don't have money. But they start using it. But what happened is actually now I can see that talking to a few of the engineers and developer from all these major companies, they will actually use AI now to actually incorporate whatever data that you have. Remember Dr. Ida mentioned before, you have few types of formula. Now that formula changes because when you have many variables, when you have many variables, then the formula changes. So we will talk about that later on. So the excellent, the other thing that you look at excellent now, remember somebody asked us, how do you look at if let's say patient had pathological myopia or staphyloma? So what happened is actually in that, there will be a new strap source OCT now, looking at can we go penetrate better to look at the retina. So this is all coming. I'm just giving you overview. So understand that the excellence has not stopped in terms of the development, but we stop in utilizing the data when we use only two variables to calculate IOL. Yeah, we stop on that. So that is actually the excellence. So what is actually another thing about measurement of excellence? There is now a portable SSOCT. That means there's a portable SSOCT. Now it's not in Malaysia yet. Somebody is trying to bring it in, but we do not know yet. Even with the normal SSOCT, you can see how big is the machine and expensive. So they have this strap source OCT, they call it Oculus. They have it. So that is actually actually coming to the market. So I don't have any experience on that, but that is actually coming in. So that's basically in short what I want to cover on the excellent excellent technology. Now I will conclude this in the IOL formula later on. So if you look at the K reading, the keratometry. Now the basis of keratometry is this. You have the cross section of the cornea over here. If you have and Dr. Ami actually presented well in terms of the normal cornea is not a spherical by itself, but you have to comprehend. The first technology that we have, what we calculate is actually the technology try to calculate the anterior segment, the anterior surface. So you have the Placido base, you have the reflection base, and then after that you have the camera base, which is actually sunfly and the pentacam. the Shenflo, the Pentacam, the Galilei, the Sirius, and then after that you start to have the tomography like SSOCT. So if you look at the SSOCT, whatever it is, all this technology they have actually looked into to measure the anterior first, because the anterior is very, very important. And the best anterior so far still actually at the refraction base. So that's why we have actually all these reflection, like what we actually know, they're using this, the reflection bag. Anything that you use on the anterior, they have actually proven that the reflection-based technology is better. That's why even IOL Master 700 incorporate that particular topography. Galilei incorporate that topography. Opscan 2 incorporate that topography. Pentacam put the topography. The reason for that is reflection is still good for the anterior, for the normal. All the discussion about technology looking at how good is anterior, but now the technology said, now we know the posterior, how good is the posterior. That is where tomography comes in. And people were looking at how good is tomography. The current formula that you have in terms of you want to look at posterior K, which talked about just now, looking at posterior parietal eyelid. Now, if you look at the technology, the posterior K and the IOL formula, they actually entertain only 3 machines now, or maybe 4. One is from IOL Master 700. Second is actually from Pentacam. There are actually formula look at Galilei as well, right? Galilei. We haven't got it from Argus in terms of because the posterior K, we don't get that formula. So meaning that the posterior K, in terms of this measurement of it, whatever that you do in terms of measurement of it, the anterior is still important, but the posterior K is important if you have the machine. Now, if you do not have the machine, don't worry about it, because now we have the formula that incorporate the posterior K as well. So that's basically in short on how we do this in terms of understanding the technology that we have. Try to summarize it in all this drawing. But the talk that Dr. Anwar actually gave you, the irregular cornea, and this is what I want to address later on. I just keep actually writing that so I don't forget. How do you actually deal with the irregular cornea? Now, if you look at this, the issue that we have, if you look at this cornea, right, if you have this, now you actually have normal cornea. With the normal cornea, we try to actually measure this and this, try to get the total K. But when the irregular cornea, not only that you might have the differences between this, but the nature of the cornea is have changed. If you have a scar here, this have different outcome, different biomechanical. If you have actually over here, but all of a sudden over here is is actually thinner, you have different outcome. That's why when we talk in the afternoon on the at the region, you will understand. And we'll try to look at any of these technology will actually make sense to you. Now that is actually the key. The last part will be the IOL formula. Now the IOL formula. Now in IOL formula, if I draw the eye again, I hope that I will be able to do this. Okay, now if I draw this again. Now what I want to highlight is this. The formula, you will have a lot of people talk about generation. And generation, first generation, second generation, third generation. Usually talking about this generation is actually, people don't use it anymore because it's actually so confusing. People look at the strategy. The strategy means that how do you actually use any of the data that you have into the formula, algorithm, and get the results. So then for that, they have a few strategies. If you heard about this regression before, regression, and then it's SRK2, nobody used that before. Regression means actually you don't know what's going on, you get the data and then you have to plot into the curve and you try to predict. We don't use it anymore. The second one is now we're still using it and we're still using it a lot, is vergence. Have you heard about this? Vergence is actually geometry or optical formula. So there's so many actually optical formula, whether it's thick lens or thin lens, they try to predict the optical refraction. From that, they have few formula. Number 3, what they have is actually, have you heard about ray tracing? They have a formula now. They actually, to get this, they did a ray tracing, get it from here, and then you get it back, and then you back calculated ray tracing. Yeah. And number 4, of course, they're using AI. Now, to date, there's so many formula when people actually which one that I'm going to use. Now, let's take a look like, for example, Kate formula or like Barrett's formula. Barrett's formula is actually using 7 to 9 variables, all this measurement to get the power. The same thing with actually Kate and Evo, where they actually going to evolve now, just letting you know, they're going to actually have AI component to this. That's why they start having 2.0. You know, they develop that, it's available online, and they start looking at, you know, okay, now we have an upgrade of the formula. But any new formula, it is actually good now for short, normal, and long I. And why do we actually look into this formula now? Once we know that Barrett's is good, Kate is good, you know, Evo is good. The reason is actually the benchmark. Everybody wants to push, can we get 75% of our patient with the error of 0.21? That's basically the aim. Can we do that? You know? So, if again, it comes back to the way that we calculate. Yeah? So, that's why actually, in short, I want just in my presentation, which actually have about 35 slides, was actually trying to do bit by bit, try to make people understand. But in short, if I tell you just like that, you know, you don't miss anything in terms of the update. And this will keep coming. You will see later on the latest update, 2023, one in AJO, one in actually clinical survey. They actually shortlisted it, and this keep coming on. But it doesn't mean that you actually, you know, you're not there. So the conclusion is what? If you look at the 3 of this, now, I promise you 20 minutes, now it's actually more. Okay, so if you go to AZLang, K reading, and IOL formula, this is all that you want to address during IOMPC in the intermediate, but we do not have enough time to go into that detail yet. So what we actually combine with actually comorbid, and that's basically what we do with a certain irregular cornea, axial length, and then actually the long axial length, and hopefully with this comorbid, we can actually tell you the differences and the update on the axial length K as well as the IOL formula. So we hope that in the early morning session like this, you'll be able to get that. You know, the topic itself is actually easy to put you actually off to sleep. But I think it's actually, and again, we're not going to do this like, you know, 100, we don't want to make mistake anymore. We will do at 20 to 30 only like this. And that's why even in terms of your arrangement, we ask AI, what is the best arrangement to actually get your view vision? And that's why we put 2 over there. And AI did not predict that people would not want to sit over there. They rather sit at the back. So that's why, you know, everything is actually well thought for you to get the most of information on this. So I hope that you get that particular message. We come back at 2 o'clock. I know that we cut you by half an hour. So at 2 o'clock, we start with, I think we have few cases, at least 6 cases, 6 to 7 cases that we're going to present. But the hope is whatever that you have any issue this morning, we can actually look at the real clinical case in the afternoon. Is that okay? Any